Well, the Atlantic hurricane season runs from June 1st to November 30th, and we're using this little segment here to really dissect what has been transpired this year. Now, we've got meteorologist Jessie Uppal, meteorologist Mark Robinson, and I'm meteorologist Chris Murphy with you. And, you know, Jessie, all the signs were pointing towards that this was going to be a year of a lot of storms.
Yeah, we were predicting an above average hurricane season with lots of activity. As you said, it looked like we were on track to see explosive activity across the Atlantic Basin. A lot of the major predictors out there, Colorado State University, NHC, National Hurricane Center, we were all predicting the same thing, an above average hurricane season. But I mean, Chris, it surprised many of us, myself included, maybe you as well. Yeah. It was a very slow and steady start to the season. We actually had a lull, completely no-name storms for a solid month.
Very odd indeed. I mean, we've had more hurricanes in November than in August, which is pretty much unheard of. So then, you know, it was very quiet. People were thinking, oh, this season's in a bust. But we kept reiterating over and over and over again, it only takes one. Well, that seal certainly got cracked in the middle of September with Fiona, and then shortly after that was Hurricane Ian. So joining us now, Mark Robinson, you were in both. Let's talk from a meteorological point of view. What was the difference between, say, those two?
You know what? The difference was that there was very little difference.
Wow.
And usually with Canadian hurricanes, by the time they sort of arrive in our waters, which are considerably colder than they are in the tropics, they start to undergo that transition to extratropical. And when you get an extratropical hurricane, the one side has all the rain, the other side has all the wind. With Fiona, it had both. The whole thing had both the wind and the rain, which is unusual for Canadian hurricanes. And the direction that it came in at, also unusual. So yeah, it felt more like being in a tropical hurricane in the Atlantic provinces. That was the weird part of it.
You know, as someone who was in Dorian and in Danny, these were post-tropical storms in the Maritimes, I can tell you there felt nothing tropical about that. That was a cold rain, a cold lashing rain at that. So this seemed more like a tropical, a true tropical storm.
Yeah, I was going to say that it was still cold. I had my dry suit on. Underneath my dry suit, I did have my fleece on to stay warm in it. But that was mostly because of the spray that was coming off of the ocean there. But yeah, it was not as cold as I have been in the Atlantic provinces for those hurricanes.
I mean, I had less time to really spend over colder waters. The size of Fiona was one thing to speak of, but it was also the central pressure that had a lot of meteorologists' eyes on.
Oh yeah, we hit 931. I mean, translate that pressure into an actual tropical cyclone on, say, Florida coast, and you've got a Cat 5. But it's all about that pressure gradient. So, you know, you've got pressure gradients like this, you know, sort of from the outer area to the center, and you haven't got strong winds. But, you know, if you have that same pressure gradient down south, it's like that, you get the strong winds.
Yeah.
And of course, speaking of strong winds, you felt that when you were in Ian, and we'll be talking more and more about Hurricane Ian, but that was a true hurricane in every sense of the word.
No, yeah. I mean, that one, the eye was almost perfect when it came on shore. It was a bit clouded over. You know, I remember standing there looking up, and it was cloudy, but it was absolutely still.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, you just saw the gray wall begin to come towards us on the backside of it, and it was like, oh boy, time to get in shelter.
All right. Well, you know, Mark Robinson was in both Fiona and Ian, and there was a very quick turnaround between the two. So we're going to just talk a little bit more about Mark's adventures, what he saw and what he almost didn't.